Yes, I'll call to order the meeting, the 896th meeting of the Morris County Park.
Pursuant to NJSA 10-4-6, adequate notice of the meeting being held at 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020, has been provided by notifying the Daily Record and the Star Ledger by posting said notice in the Administration Building of the Morris County Park Commission and at the County Courthouse, and by filing a copy of the same with the Morris County Clerk, and by posting meeting dates on the Park Commission's website. I just want to reiterate again, we are continue to be in our virtual meetings. We are anticipating that the July 27th commission meeting will be the last virtual meeting we'll have, and we'll be able to begin using the auditorium again, although we do plan on continuing to video the meetings and providing them on YouTube for the general public, because we will have continue to abide by reduced occupancies of the building at that time. I would also note, as I've done in the past virtual meetings, that this meeting can be seen via computer, tablet, or smartphone by going to www.morrisparks.net/live. You click on the Park Commission's Public Meeting Live button, and you will be able to see and hear the live video of this meeting. I'll also note that this is a Park Commission workshop meeting, one of 4 that we have during the year. So although we've been receiving a number of public comments via email the last number of days related to our workforce reduction plan, the public comments will be distributed to the Park Commissioners and then be available for comment and review for the July 27th Park Commission meeting. And we'll try to provide you those every week over a couple days at a time, so depending on how many of those come in. But also note that because it's a workshop meeting, we do not have a bill list on the agenda for today. We did have to do that earlier in the year when we missed our March meeting at the April workshop. That is, the commissioners' no bill list come out once a month, and that'll be at the July 27th meeting as well. So I will do the roll call at this time. Commissioner Abrantes?
Here.
Commissioner Barron?
Aye.
Commissioner Cash-Schmidt? Commissioner Cash-Schmidt?
Here.
Commissioner Cogger?
Here.
Commissioner Califer?
Here.
Commissioner McCarthy is with us in the room today.
Here.
Vice President Seabury.
Aye.
And is Commissioner Tall with us? I'm also checking to see if the acting treasurer of the county, Betty Bauer, is with us today. And whether our Freeholder liaison, Steve Shaw, is with us today. Okay, we'll move forward with the agenda. Commissioner Seabury is chairing today's meeting because President Lasser is away for a few days.
Thank you, David. We'll have the report of the executive director now.
Okay, before I get into the lettered items that are on the agenda, I'll provide my general report that I typically do at every meeting that don't have attachments provided. The first item, I want to let the commissioners know that in preparation for this year's deer management program, we sent out correspondence on July 13th to the mayors, town managers, administrators in Morris County, and the police chiefs in those towns as well, providing them with the schedule of the deer management program for this year. We do have more of that on our agenda later on in the meeting. I'll also note that we received notification that the county has entered into a new management agreement for the maintenance, operation, and billing of the solar array panels at Mennen Arena. I should note it's just not for Mennen Arena. I believe it's in the total program for the county. The new company's name is Sunlight General Capital Management, replacing Tioga. And we've already received correspondence from their front office. And 2 weeks ago, they toured our solar arrays at Mennen with our chief operating engineer at Mennen Sports Arena. The other item I have, and I've reported to you in the past, as has our natural resources staff, the spotted lanternfly is in Morris County. I reported last month that we will be placing traps in a number of facilities, and we did under our Superintendent of Natural Resources guidance in the USDA, placed 9 traps between Central Park of Morris County, James Andrews Memorial County Park, and the community gardens of the Frelinghuysen Arboretum along Patriots Path. The spotted lanternfly is known to attack the Atlantis tree, or the tree of heaven, but also has a negative impact on fruit-bearing trees as well. The USDA staff and our natural resource staff will continue to monitor those traps. We also, along with those 3 sites, the spotted lanternfly has also been spotted at the Elizabeth D. Kay Environmental Center and Bamboo Brook Outdoor Education Center. So Matt has put out information to staff to promptly notify him if they see the lanternfly in any of the tree species, so we can track the impact of that pest on our plant material. We also, a week or 2 ago, received correspondence from the production coordinator for the New Jersey Picture and Television Commission to possibly do a photo shoot or a video shoot at Sunrise Lake Beach at Lewis Morris County Park. And staff is working on coordinating that. I don't know if that will come to fruition or not, but when the governor allowed TV and video production to begin in New Jersey, they promptly reached out to us. I'd like to note that Ann Fahey, our superintendent of horticultural education, has continued to provide virtual presentations. In the beginning, those presentations were free. Most recently, they have become fee-based. They're $10 a person. She did a talk on, most recently on Let's Talk Perennials on June 28th, and has plans to do floral ranging demonstrations later in July and August. To date, Ann has done 7 virtual paid programs and has had 205 participants just between late June and through the end of July. And I am making note, she said that the programs that are being the best received are the ones for our horticulture therapy initiatives. In fact, she has a group of 75 people that she's speaking to on a monthly basis. And she's also most recently just booked 2 private virtual presentations as well. So Ann continues to try to provide public programming as best she can through horticultural facilities. I was contacted by the consultant for the Mayo Performing Arts Center. As you know, they had a successful concert at Foster Fields on June 24th, and they are looking to do one or two more for the remainder of the year. And they've asked me if the Park Commission would consider allowing them to do another concert on August 18th. It's a Tuesday with a rain date of Wednesday the next day. They've had also to reduce their staff significantly, but are still able to provide staffing and volunteers from the Performing Arts Center, who I feel performed extremely well the last event. It went very, very smoothly. So with the commissioner's concurrence, I'd like to allow Mayo another opportunity to do a drive-in show at the backfields of the Frelinghuysen Arboretum. Is anybody opposed to that partnership?
You said Frelinghuysen.
I'm sorry, Foster Fields Living Historical Farm. I've been pushing Frelinghuysen, but I think they're most comfortable with Foster Fields. They've been able to work with an individual from the Morris School District who does the lining of the spaces, and they think they just have a streamlined approach at that location. So any commissioner opposed to that continued relationship? Hearing no opposition, we'll move forward with that. I also want to note that the staff at Foster Fields Living Historical Farm has been putting together an initiative to implement a drive-through tour of the Foster Fields Living Historical Farm. In brief, it'll be tours will run Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. $10 a car load, and there are 3 hourly slots. We'll be using a similar methodology we've been using at Lee's County Park Marina, where folks will be able to purchase their tickets online. And there'll be a number of stops along the way, some with staff and volunteers running an initiative like butter churning or corn shelling, and then some will be done via digital technology. But at this time, they're working on 13 different locations throughout the site. They would like to, in the beginning, July 29th, 30th, and 31st, provide the opportunity to the members of the Friends first, and then begin opening up this program to the general public on August 5th. And I appreciate staff's effort to continue to provide programming as best we can at Foster Fields Living Historical Farm. I'll also be discussing on Friday with Lynn Laffey and her staff, the horticultural staff, about and the chief about putting together a controlled opening plan for the Frelinghuysen Arboretum, Willowwood, and Bamboo Brook. I anticipate it would include the sites being closed on weekdays and shortened days during the week. I also will talk to the chief. As some may know, the Foster Fields Entrance Road is one of the gateways to the Patriots Path section that connects Sussex Avenue in Morris Township and Whitehead Road in Morris Township. We've precluded all public from entering Foster Fields at this point in time. But now as we begin opening some sites up, I'll talk to staff about putting appropriate signs up that allow folks to walk in between the gate and the fence to access Patriots Path only at this point in time. We also, in regards to partnering with other nonprofit agencies, Morris Arts has reached out to me on a couple of occasions, and most recently they are now seeking to do a drive-through art installation at Lewis Morris Kenny Park on Saturday, August 22nd, with the rain date of the 23rd. We had no rentals in the park that day, so we thought that would be a good day to do this. They would bring the artist in at 8 o'clock. They'd be cleaned up by 7 o'clock at night. And the event would be open to the public from 11 to 4 by vehicle only and prepayment ahead of the event. So they would check in at the entrance to Lewis Morris and then drive through the park. Once I get more information about the number and the types of artworks, I'll report that to the commissioners. But I think our continued collaboration with the nonprofit facilities is another way in which we can bring folks to the parks with some enhanced programming as best we can in these difficult times. The next item I have is we've received a request from a company called Bullseye Laser Tag, and they're looking to rent Craigmere for 2 nights in November for a laser tag event and program. And staff has been working with them and working with Chief DiPietro and his staff. And it looks like this event will actually come to fruition. Similar, all of these programs have to abide by the existing and future executive orders. These will be events where everything will be booked in advance over the phone, so we'll know how many people will be on site at a given time. And if you weren't aware, the governor did increase the capacity of group gatherings to 500 people at this time, outdoors, not indoors yet. Staff is also considering at this point in time a request from a lacrosse group to host a lacrosse scouting event at Central Park of Morris County on August 5th and 6th. They were originally scheduled to be at Lehigh University, where they've been for the last number of years, but the campus is closed. They were looking to use a well-known facility in Delaware, but Delaware now is on the list of the need for New Jersey residents to quarantine for 14 days if they enter those states and stay in those states. It would be they're anticipating 350 to 400 people over the course of a 2-day period and from 8 a.m. to 6:45 p.m. What we like about this event is actually on a Wednesday and a Thursday, so it'll minimally impact the other users of Central Park, and because typically these types of events are on weekends. So the revenue from this would be pretty significant because the group is outside the county in a for-profit entity. We also continue to receive requests for larger scale events, as we typically do throughout the park system, and we're considering each of those events at a given time based upon the group's ability to control their social distancing practices and such. And we are going to be reaching out to the High School Cross Country Association because fall's right around the corner. And there are now some protocols being distributed by the Department of Health related when high school fall sports can start. And as the commissioners know, we run a lot of runners, cross-country runners through Central Park, and those protocols may have to be changed if those types of events are allowed to continue within not only the existing requirements, but what the Park Commission feels safe as it relates to other users of the park. I'm also at this time recommending to the commission that we do not permit any walkathons or large group events on the Lewontin Brook Trail System for the remainder of the year. As we'll get to later on in the agenda, the use of Lewontin Brook Reservation's trail system for the month of May alone was 56% over previous years. And I think allowing these larger scale events, if those organizations are going to have them, and many are canceling them, would have a significant impact on our general park users. We are permitting the softball fields to be used now at this point, but they tend to impact the general users a lot less than these larger scale events. Also related to Leeds County Park Marina, we've allowed Row New Jersey, formerly known as the Mountain Lakes Rowing Club, to return to the site for practices, but we're only allowing 20 people at a time and weekdays only at this point in time, so as not to impact our primary uses of the marina is our boat launching and boat slips. And they were also requested to provide their own porta-john at this time as well, to be kept away from the general public area. We also have received word, it's been in the papers, that due to the state's furlough initiative, they have, I guess they're doing this in a phased approach. The folks from the state Fish and Wildlife are on a 30-day furlough, and 38 sites under the Fish and Wildlife's jurisdiction are either closed or restricted use through July 27th. So it's impacting the Park Commission, as we know, is impacting many facilities, not only around the state, but around the country as well. I also wanted to make note, just very generally, because it's still under investigation. I had reported to the commissioners that unfortunately in late June, a young man committed suicide at Lewis Morris County Park. That issue is still under investigation. The prosecutor's office has put out a press release on that to let the public know that it is not a closed matter, at least at this point in time. Continues to be under investigation, but unfortunately, because of what's going on, throughout the country, related to officer resident interactions, some not positive, on social media, people were expressing that this incident may have been a lynching and not a suicide. It's caused great stress down in the Park Police with numerous phone calls, lots of comments on social media. I did let the executive committee last week hear a message that came in. On another note on the same matter, Denise Lanza has received a call from family friends of the individual that passed, and they are seeking to plant a tree in his memory at Schooley's Mountain County Park. And Denise, in conjunction with the Alliance, are working on that initiative together. One of the local nurseries may be looking to donate a tree. It's a nursery where the Columbia Trail cuts through. And Kevin today, our manager of park maintenance, will facilitate a tree planting with family and friends when that is ready to go. That is the bulk of my general report. We can now move on to some of the items on the agenda. The first item is we downloaded information from our pedestrian and vehicle counters at the end of May. And as we just kind of broke down to show you some percentages, we just put a chart together comparing last May to this May. Sites that we knew were being increasingly used, but maybe not to the same degree as the Blue Trail at Pyramid Mountain has had a 180% increase in use in the month of May. The Columbia Trail crossing at Schooley's Mountain Road, 146% increase. I understand in many of these cases, this also was at the same time we had reduced parking in effect because we didn't eliminate all of our reduced parking as soon as the governor allowed to happen. As I noted before about the Waunaka Brook Reservation, you see 135% increase at Giralda Farms alone, and a staggering number at the South Street entrance of 29,000 trail users this year compared to 18 last year. And that park, up until last week, we still controlled the number of parking spaces. So the trail systems are being heavily used.
Mr. Director,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Where are the people parking, on along South Street there? And why so much more use on South Street, Lawanica versus, Green Village versus Kitchell Road?
Well, I mean, South Street, they use our parking areas. We did try to prevent on-road parking where it was not appropriate, so as not to impact the local residents. It's just the turnover is, if you go out and visit sites, it's nonstop. Some people are, leery about walking with larger groups and maybe go out at different hours, but it is a nonstop rotation of trail users out in that area.
You look at the sheer numbers, it's incredible.
It is, especially in Lawanica, which was already busy to begin with. And even Schooley's Mountain Park, if you look at the vehicle counts down below, the vehicle counts are up 135% in a park that is not as heavily used.
So you're saying there's 1,000 people there a day?
Yes.
So where do they park?
They're rotating through. So the South Street trail counter, you may have parked at Green Village, or you may have parked at Lawanica Way, you may have parked at Kitchell, and you're doing a long route, so you're being picked up there. But it's the rotation. If you go down to that parking lot at any given hour, any given day, it's busy.
Okay.
And we were showing you numbers last year at Lawanica Way alone that we thought were a fluke. And, we started going out and spot checking throughout the day. And, Monday through Friday was just as busy as it was on Saturdays and Sunday. So these are what you have in front of you are only the sites that we've counted that had history. There are other counters and trail counters that are out there. But I know, I think Commissioner Palafer was spending time on Patriots Path, if I'm not mistaken, and you can see even the Pitney Road crossing, it was up 236%. Number-wise, maybe not as huge, but you're seeing people maybe going out more regularly, or new people being introduced to those locations. So it's across the board. And I'm sure if we had car counters at every crossing, we would probably see that same figure throughout, from East Hanover all the way out to Mount Olive.
David, I would anticipate that there are more people in a car now than there used to be. You have an estimate number. What was it? It's 2, was it, or 1.8?
We used in general, we use 2.5%. That's going to a general purpose park. If you were going to one of our historic sites or horticultural sites, we use 3% because typically that's that family. And probably to your point, Commissioner Seabury, is people are traveling not with their spouses
Their
and
whole
their family
families and kids
all together.
Whatever.
So those numbers could be skewed even more so this year than has in the past. And we're also hearing from bike shops that you can't find a bike anymore. The order time for bicycles is now, weeks at a time to get a bicycle. And so you may also have people that are riding bikes to the parks that are not actually driving to the parks.
That's weight equipment too, other exercise equipment. People
You're seeing,
pull out,
you're seeing,
Sure.
a huge trend on that. The next item on the agenda We had spoken about this in previous rec trails meeting in general, but more specifically now, our planning staff is beginning, has fine-tuned and submitted letters of interest for 2 grant programs. One is the NJDOT Bikeways Program grant, and the other is the NJTPA CMAQ grant. There are 2 projects where we have an interest in, but we'll see as things move forward from a budgetary perspective and a staffing perspective. The first is going back again and trying to seek to extend the traction line from Danforth Avenue to Elm Street. Denise Chaplick has been in conversation with a councilwoman in Madison again, that they're somewhat supportive of. That extension would be 1 mile. And then the other one is the Patriots, we're calling it the Patriots Path Project. And this is a 4-mile extension of Patriots Path that would actually take you from the Martin Luther King Boulevard in Morristown, the end of the existing NJTPA grant project we have going on along Pocahontas Lake, all the way out to Eden Lane in Hanover Township, with the understanding that there are some sections in Hanover Township that are already paved. But so we have put together some budget estimates, and we'll be submitting grant letters of interest to both of those programs to see how and if we benefit. And if you go back to the pedestrian counting system and take a look at the traction line numbers, specifically it would be the second one from the bottom under pedestrian counts. That's that traction line Con Road. You see about 100% increase in usage. That probably is not only in part to the environment that we have now with more people going out trying to recreate, but also to the development of the old Honeywell property. And staff are seeing, just visually more folks walking down from that development to the traction line. I will also note that in the grants for the traction line, Morris Township was able to help us with what they anticipate to be new development in that region along the traction line with the number of housing units. So better to be able, in our grant application, let folks know how even more important the traction line will be to that kind of leave your home, walk on the trail as opposed to a parking lot trailhead facility. So hopefully in at least in September, we'll be able to begin meeting regularly with the committees and bringing you up to date on where that project lies as well. The next item is our whitetail deer management program for 2021. You had at the May 18th commission meeting approved the schedule with the understanding that the state Fish and Wildlife had to finalize some dates. Those dates have been placed into the program. And as I said earlier, this schedule has been sent out to the towns to make them aware of this year's program. Along with the 2021 program, and my agenda, I apologize, it says 2020-2020, but it is 2020-21. Staff has made some recommendations just due to the social distancing environment, predominantly on the way in which we receive applications and permits and have hunters go through their training program. You can see on the first page, Matt Trump has put together a protocol that we all think will work well, not only for staff, but also for the hunters. We'll be putting together a PowerPoint presentation for the new hunters to have them go through our program. And they'll have to, as they normally do, answer a number of questions to see if they pass. Because of that streamlined approach, they're also recommending that this year the application fee, it's not the permit fee, but the application fee is reduced to reduce some of the back and forth that we've had to do in the past and streamline the program. And there is one change in the rules and regulations that we think is relatively easy to do in this environment where we don't have as much public interaction, only because it streamlines our $5 incentive where you get $5 for every female harvested up to a certain number. And staff's recommendation, and I think even on the fiscal side in our accounting department, sending out $5 at a time for X number of hunters, because it becomes a little much administrative task, and it's much better to put that dollar into a credit for next year's permit. We hope the commission supports that change to the program, and that will be incorporated into our hunter packages this year. And as you can see,
That's a good idea.
yeah, I mean, once again, streamline having to put out checks for $5, $10, or $15, gives them a direct credit next year. They save, and for the shotgun hunt dates, hunters will be asked to check in via telephone or email to the natural resources staff, as opposed to having staff waiting at the gates checking people in and out. And we will see how that works for this season.
David, I have
Yes,
a
sir.
question. I believe a few months ago, we participated with a group doing an aerial type
Yes.
analysis of the deer population in not all the parks, but some of them. Are you going to do some correlation of that data in terms of hunters in the woods? I mean, that's the only
Yeah.
way we're going to reduce that.
In fact, I owe the commissioners a copy of that. I'll send that out to you. That was the project we collaborated with on the Raritan Valley Community College. It was the first time we had a census done by drone, and it was
A participant has left the meeting.
and it was Malin Dickerson Reservation, Lewis Morris County Park, and Foster Fields. And I will get that report out to you directly. But yes, that'll be another way in which we can help correlate the number of deer, the locations of the deer, where they're at, and be able to provide feedback the following year for the program. It's done for 2021, but yes, I'll get that information out to you.
Mr. Director, I have another
Yes, sir.
question relating to that. We have several locations here, many locations here. In the last several years, is the hunt working? I mean, do we have any areas that are under more stress than others where we, might want to expand the hunt or try to guide people in that direction if we have some damage?
I mean, we're still seeing the impact of the deer population. We're trying to grapple with deer still infiltrating at the Freeling Heights and Arboretum, although we had a good response this past year with the hunters we brought in at the end, that they were able to take out a number of deer. There's still a feeling that there's a very large culvert down by the Whippany River underneath 287 and Hanover Avenue.
Right. We don't have a hunting down to do it. Right?
We that's special hunting permits there.
Okay.
So as we identify the number of deer on the property, then we bring the hunters out. And it took a number out, but they're still finding their way to that site.
I see you only have a couple of spots where you allow, firearms.
Correct.
Would firearms in those other places be more effective, or just too close proximity to?
I think it's the proximity to housing. It's closing significant, because we closed the parks during the firearm hunts. And the feeling is, at least from our reports, the annual reports that Kelly's done in the past, that the bow hunting is because the number of days is much more beneficial. And we're also being told that we're seeing less and less firearm hunters out there.
Okay.
But we'll always evaluate that. We're somewhat restricted by the state zones where firearm is allowed. But we continue to evaluate all those approaches every year and try to bring them to your attention in our annual report.
Thank you.
If I can comment, my opinion, the program is very successful with approximately 500 hunters, and you're getting 250 deer.
Right.
And that's very successful, but we still have a deer problem.
Absolutely.
There's still too many deer.
Oh, the
So-
report from the Raritan Valley Community College still shows you, I don't think at Lewis Morris we're up to our 54 deer per square mile where we were, I think it was 15 years ago when we partnered with Morris Township on doing an aerial of all of Morris Township, but that number is still, in the 30s. And the general consensus is the population should be somewhere between 12 and 15 deer per square mile. And I always put an asterisk to that is that's the number of deer that's in an open space area. And when you talk about 12 to 15 deer per square mile, say Morris Township with all the development and so on, the number's even higher and you may need to be more aggressive.
And they're eating our forest, the little ones.
Yeah.
The little trees that we need to replace these trees that are dying because of these invasive bugs.
Well, that was the dominant, issue with Lewis Morris, and I think that's a little bit better. You used to be able to kneel down and look out, and you
Right.
could see, 100 yards into the underbrush because there was no obstructions from, the smaller new growth. That was,
And you're right, and we did see that here at Lewis Morris. You're seeing a little bit more of that regrowth. Malon tends to be in good condition at this point in time, but if you go to Old Troy County Park, I mean, it's invasive, so you have to look through the green,
right.
because not all green is good.
Yeah.
But we have seen some resurgence of some native plants here specifically at Lewis Morris.
Thank you.
The next item on your agenda is the correspondence I sent out to our friends and support groups on July 9th. I will tell you that I've heard back at least either by phone or by email from everybody except the president of the Willowwood Foundation at this point in time. I'll reach out to Brace when I can. This was not an easy process for the Park Commission to undergo related to our furloughs and our layoffs. We have been receiving a number, as I said earlier, comments coming in at today's meeting that will be forwarded to you. The hard copies will be forwarded to you so you can review the public's perspective on some of these facilities closing. I don't need to tell the commissioners that we're here in 2012 when we had our first round of layoffs of 35 individuals that did not impact the same group that it was impacted this time. I can assure you, as I said earlier, those staff that remain will continue to provide the best type of programming we can within our means, just as you see from Foster Fields Initiative. And for our newer commissioners, there are comments, of course, as there always are, relating to reducing headcount in areas that may be less impactful or visible to the public. Although we laid off 11 individuals, we kept 11 positions vacant prior to entering this COVID environment because we knew there might be some impact, some budgetary impact to the Park Commission. And I think it's imperative if the commissioners use the correspondence I sent out that was picked up in the Morristown Green online news piece the other day, the public's awareness that the Park Commission is not fully funded by taxpayer dollars. And I think that may be something different that when you understand your municipal park system, and you may have some park systems like Essex County that are a department of and not a commission, is that your responsibility, our responsibility is to actually bring in half of our operating budget through non-tax revenue streams. And I think when I speak to folks and they understand that, they get a better idea of the predicament that we're in. And I'll also say that as much as people need to go out and interact with their natural environment because it may be the safest places to be now, we know that schools are not going to be coming back to the park system anytime soon. We know the interaction with our indoor spaces are going to be restricted, not only from numbers in the executive order, but also from our ability to maintain the proper sanitation of those facilities. Currently, our only custodians are at Men in Sports Arena and a part-timer at the Haggerty Education Center. Our field crews are responsible for cleaning restrooms and cleaning facilities, and they have their hands full at this point in time. I also want to make note that for the newer commissioners is that of our 9 senior staff, all but one were employed at the Park Commission at a low level, a beginning, starting level. For instance, I was a part-timer. Rich was an intern. The chief was a patrolman. The director of Parks and Visitor Services was a boat attendant. Reynold Fossey, who will be retiring, and that director's position will be eliminated, started out basically as a skate guard as Wrinkle One was being built. So those 9 individuals have 22 years of experience on average. And all of them will do whatever it takes to continue to operate the Park Commission, whether it's volunteering for activities, going out to the field. They all have had a role in educating the public in any number of our diverse areas of opportunity. And as I spoke to the commissioners, as we develop this initiative we're at the point where we cannot impact our field forces, the true frontliners in maintaining the parks and facilities, because when those facilities decline, we'll never be able to get programming back into those sites at a reduced cost. So this is a difficult time. It's not an easy time. All staff are feeling the impact of reduced wages. And we only can hope that we can recover over time. And as we spoke, our emphasis right now is on revenue production. It's on sunny days so the golf courses can remain open because they produce that 50% of our revenue stream. And we are putting our resources in the areas that we think are most effective in the short term to allow the Park Commission to be stable in the long term. The message that we're shuttering our buildings is not accurate. We're not letting buildings go. We're continuing to pursue grant. You have a grant resolution on the table today for some smaller projects. But as I said in my correspondence to the Friends Group, I listed out any number of projects we're continuing to move forward on in the eventuality that we'll get over this, whatever this period of time is. But I think it's extremely important that the public is aware that the Park Commission is only funded through property taxpayer dollars at 50% of our operating budget, and we do not have the ability, we're not a taxing organization or entity. And please feel free, provide me any comments, any support. I know I had a lengthy conversation of one of our friends, members of one of our historic sites, and as negative as the situation is, she was both feet in, wanting to help bring some greater awareness to our plight, to participate. Our executive committee talked about bringing in the presidents and vice presidents of our nonprofit support groups as a group to see what we can do moving forward collectively to bring back some of the programming we have been known for. And comparing us to other park systems or single site facilities doesn't do justice either. Only one of our counterparts has any similar depth of cultural and historic facilities, and that's Monmouth County Park System. Monmouth had the benefit of being a population of 500,000 or more, so CARES money traveled through Monmouth County. And the Park Commission, as you folks know, we are responsible for all of our operating expenses, from pension costs to health insurance costs. Those same responsibilities are not the same in other park systems. So you know where we've been, you know the difficult decisions we've made, and it's now time to take a look forward.
Mr. Director, the CARES money, if in fact our county was a little larger, slightly larger, what amount of money would we have gotten?
I don't know. What I can tell you is that ANJAC has been pushing the governor to distribute some of the unspent CARES money, and I think it's somewhere between $2 and $4 billion to the counties that did not receive any money, that are under 500,000 population. Now, understanding, Morris County set up a testing site up at CCM. There was a cost related to that. How we would benefit from any of those funds, we would have to flow through the county, and we'd hope the county would understand what we've undergone we're basically operating like a business, really not like a government agency. And when you shut our revenue producing facilities down, that money is what covers the cost to be open for the remainder of the year. So I think out of all of this, greater awareness of the public about how the Park Commission operates is as important as what we're going through at this point in time as well. On the list, and the chief is in the room with us today. We go into closed session. We're going to talk more specifically about some of the negative impacts that have affected the park system in various locations. I think unusually more so in recent weeks than it had been actually through the worst of our closures. And the chief will speak a little bit to that, but I apologize for some of the graphic images I placed in the PowerPoint presentation on Hennepin County Park. Hennepin County Park is one of the sites that we're seeing the greatest negative impact at, not only affecting our neighbors, our staff, the need to keep multiple officers on site over a weekend, handing out summonses over summonses, which reduces our ability to control some of our other facilities. It's unfortunate that the people affected by a lot of what we're undergoing are the people that do the right thing. But you have to remember there are a lot of folks that aren't doing the right thing out there. And it's the responsibility of the park police and park staff to address those issues and situations and keep facilities closed as long as it can see fit. I will be recommending, especially once the chief speaks to you about the incidences, that we close Hennepin Park for at least a week. The issues are that traumatic, and some of them relate to safety issues unrelated to the COVID issue. Open fires and volumes of out-of-state folks congregating in areas that we typically do not have. I've already put an email into the Mine Hill mayor, who's responded to me, is available to speak with me this afternoon. Because what we do when we close these parks, we don't want to affect the residents living nearby the parks where people will just park outside the gate. So the chief will speak to you a little bit about that as well. I've been around a long time and I haven't seen what's happened at Hennepin Park happen at any of our facilities. So when I'm a little nervous about opening up the Frelinghuysen, Arboretum, and Willowwood, I think about how social media provides information to the public and brings them to sites that they might not otherwise go to. You have also on the agenda, item G is our refund request. I have a number 8 to add to it. Without going through each, you have the backup information on items 1 through 7. If the commissioners could let me know if anybody is opposed to any of the refunds at this point in time. There are ones like at Lewis Marsh Park where the residents were concerned that they had a reservation the day after the suicide at Lewis Marsh, and they were concerned about their general safety. Many of them relate to the impact of COVID on bringing family and friends to special events. And the first 2 were showmobile rentals, where those organizations are not having their event this year to utilize the showmobile. The reason they come to the committee, because they're contrary to policy. The policy stipulates when a refund request can be approved by staff. All of these are requesting full refunds at this point in time. So that has to come to the commissioners because it's contrary to park policy.
Dave, I have no objection. I mean, in this setting, I don't think you can hold people or take their money without generating a lot of ill will and potentially bad press.
Right.
I agree with Betty.
I agree also.
Thank you. The newer item that didn't make the agenda was, as some of the commissioners know, we have a relationship with Picatinny Arsenal and our campgrounds at Malin Dickerson Reservation. On a regular basis, they sometimes hire seasonal staff for the Arsenal, and then there are times when active military at the Arsenal use our campgrounds at a reduced rate. We had a young man that was scheduled to work at Picatinny from July 5th through the 18th. He was coming up from Tennessee. Not only was the intern terminated, but also because he was coming from Tennessee, he's on a list of one of the 20 states. He was going to be camping at Malin to the cost of $324. I'd ask for your support on whether or not you would approve that refund or not. If anybody's opposed to it, just let me know.
I would agree.
Because it involves dollars, should we have an actual vote on it? Or you just,
No, the refund is, you have your policy,
okay,
The policy-
because it is contrary to policy.
right, but you folks are able to approve that. And I think by, in this environment, by asking if anybody's opposed,
Okay.
gives us the vote, just makes it a little simpler.
I don't want the accountants
No,
coming
no.
after us next year.
They're going to come after you this year. Yes?
Have we gotten any indication from Lily Casper, that's next, oh, whatever name that I can't say, as the impact on golf outings? Are people doing them? Are they scaling them down? Or are they canceling them? Or do we know?
I do know, at least with forecasts, that what they're projected for future revenues, they are not looking at outings from that perspective. Probably the biggest impact would be is the ability to, from an F&B side, under the tent, at Flanders, with the reduced capacity for Berkshire Valley, which is just, kind of small indoors as is. I don't really, there really has been no focus on trying to grow that at this time with the current requirements. But they are taking advantage of the outside dining component with the F&B to at least be able to accommodate the customers from that perspective. Maybe having a couple more barbecue type style stations that allows for them. So they've said that that's been very beneficial from that point.
Okay, that's what my expectation would be. I was just curious.
And I think for the July commission meeting, we'll have some numbers for you. Anecdotally, we're hearing that Flanders Valley is doing well. And we maybe like it to be the new norm after all this is over. So now
I
for
can
the.
tell you, every time I go by, Dave, there are plenty of folks golfing.
Yeah, Flanders has been is busy, very busy this year.
Well, you can see it.
And staff has been able to keep up with it. The storms that have come through, with all the drainage work that was done over the last couple of years, everything seems to be that drainage issue not impacting the golf course. We haven't received comments related to conditions, and the negative side of it is with a lot more use, it's more difficult to maintain. But I think you'll be surprised at the numbers we see at Flanders.
Dave, have you seen with the golf courses because the fact that in some of the very concentrated play in the early spring before the growth, have you seen that the courses are in better shape?
I think Matt Manzi reports back. He's reporting back to us no real issues other than that. I know at least in Flanders, the superintendent has been very proactive with spraying, watching the weather. So he's doing a little more preventive spraying in advance of a rainy weekend, which we were supposed to get, and then very, very humid weather afterwards. That's going to be, I think, what hurts us this year is this weather pattern and how good the superintendents can keep up with those issues. But I'm sure the tees are heavily used. You're getting a lot of golfers out there. But at this point in time, nothing that they've expressed to us that's been concerning.
You solved the one person per golf cart. How are you got enough carts up there now?
Well, no, I'll let Rich speak to that too, but I think we're still having a difficult time because as busy as it is, that $5 fee really, that you approved, increase that you approved at the last meeting really hasn't
Discouraged.
done a lot to discourage anybody.
No, so it's interesting. So one of the frustrating things for, I'm not calling Billy K, Antares, as I say, is the fact that a lot of people will come to the course and they want to have the single rider option. But what we're finding out is that these groups are coming together. They have no problem sitting at a table in close range without mask, yet they don't want to share a cart. Now, we suspect maybe that part could be how they play the game. It's easier for me and my buddy to split up and go to our ball directly versus having to drive one spot to the other. So that's been a very frustrating thing. So we've had, I know at Flanders and Berkshire Valley seems to be the biggest problem, especially at Berkshire, because you're pretty much required to take the cart there. And even for the ability to get people to the top, you just can't have staff driving them back and forth. I think it was Monmouth County that had just sent out an email that they were starting effective this past Monday, that they were limiting the number of carts to either a foursome, a twosome, or individuals. So if you made a reservation for a foursome, you are only limited to 2 carts for that foursome. They are no longer allowing, they're trying to minimize the amount of carts being delegated out to each individual because that is a problem. So I did ask Rob O'Rourke, our regional general manager, to reach out to see if there's an opportunity, maybe in the short term, to at least rent additional carts. I don't know if that's going to be financially feasible though, if you'll make a return on that in a short period of time, but it's something that we are investigating because there is a need for it, and these past couple of weeks have been very hot as well. So even from that perspective, we still want to be able to provide relief from the playing experience.
How about raising the fee again if you exceed?
We'll bring that back to the commission if Atari recommends it.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, really, because so you're basically the heat of the season, so to speak. We always found that once kind of August hits, it starts to slow down a little bit. That might change only because people aren't doing vacations and whatnot. And then even with school coming back into play, whatever form it comes back into, you surmise that September you wouldn't have that issue as much because now people would have to, tend to other responsibilities. But Billy Casper hasn't come to us as far as looking for an additional rate increase.
So in
People don't
summary,
normally drive single carts to go to their bowls individually. That's certainly a rarity. So people normally do double up.
Yes, normal. But we're finding that that's not the case right now. And, one of the biggest places we always find that is Berkshire Valley. Especially when you're on top of the hill, you'd have to walk down, or if you were able to do off the cart path, then it's just people like convenience.
can I infer from your comments that you're cautiously optimistic on that revenue stream from the golf courses?
Listen,
Through July.
every sunny day is a good day. The numbers I generally heard about Flanders Valley is something we'd like to see stay because we're playing more like a 2 golf course facility as opposed to a 1 1/4 golf course facility. I don't know if that's going to continue. But listen, as you know me, my cup is half full. The more revenue streams we can bring in and the more we can move forward on that will help us next year recover from this. But
The other major stream is from the Menon Arena, which it's kind of early, I guess, but you're trying to get other groups in earlier.
yeah, so at Menon, we have been operating ring 2 and 3 now for almost 2 weeks. The end of this week will be 2 weeks. We did a test run on 2 Thursdays ago. We're doing private lessons only at this point in time. And there's something called freestyle session where the skater just pays a dollar amount for the session and they can practice. But we have not opened up to teams or groups yet. We were waiting for rink 1, the ice to be completed on rink 1. I was there on Friday and they were almost, the belief was at the latest we'd have ice on rink 1 done and ready to be used by Thursday of this week. I could tell you there are still restrictions in the world of hockey, at least from USA Hockey. For instance, based upon our capacity, we could allow 37 individuals on each sheet of ice. Right now, due to only having private lessons, that number is at 12 because you can't have more private lessons going on at the same time. USA Hockey right now has requested that clubs don't have more than 25 skaters on the ice at a given time. Well, in this environment, not in this environment, but the cost of ice has made a lot of the clubs have 2 teams skating at a time to make it more economical. And 2 teams in general, let's say at my son's age, is 15 skaters. So right now they're going through something they can't have 2 full teams skating at the same time. It's kind of they put a sign-up sheet out there, and the first 25, whoever you want to play. Now, that's more of a self-imposed rule by USA Hockey, where we could have 37 skaters. You could then have 2 teams and X number of coaches on the ice. Our anticipation is that we're going to begin those types of hockey clinics or hockey hourly rentals on Rink 1 by Thursday. We have a number of adult groups that are itching to get back on the ice. They're going to be underneath the 37 number threshold. We're also asking all athletes to come dressed. They can bring in their helmet, their gloves, and their skates if they're hockey players, and if they're figure skaters, they can bring in their skates. We set up. You should take a look at Menin and how it's been set up, at least to provide as much social distancing as possible. The locker rooms are not being used for changing, so we're using Rink 1 for hockey primarily because we do have adults that it's a little bulkier to get dressed and drive in the car, and we really don't want folks dressing outside the rink because you've got kids and women and families coming, throughout those areas. In Rink 1, we at least have these little areas where it's not inside a room, but you can get yourself dressed, and Willie can get dressed with a little bit of privacy. The pro shop is open. They can only have up to 4 people in the pro shop. Excuse me, and they access through Rank 1. As you know, Menin, we had to reduce 2 administrative staff at Menin also, but it looks like between the furloughs there and the reduced staff, they're able to keep the office running and business flowing. This would typically be a slower time of year. I'm optimistic that some things will change, but we're also watching what's happening around the states around us, and I don't know why those spikes are being caused. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that someone doesn't make a recommendation that indoor sites are closed. I did read a little bit on the New Jersey Secondary Schools initiative to bring sports back in high schools. And there's a phased approach to allowing athletes to use indoor gyms and things like that. So at least right now, it doesn't look like we're impacted. But, summer camps are no longer summer camps. They're an hour of skating. You go home for an hour, you come back for an hour and a half. They're not doing dry land. They're not doing meals or anything like that. And that's kind of across the board, rink in Morris Township, Twin Oaks, the same scenario where I think the rink operators, the ones that ran and did what they were supposed to do and remained closed during the closures, are trying to do everything we can do to control population in the buildings. But if you walk through Menin on what is a busy day today, it's very quiet. But we're operating. So we're going to go into executive session now, and for any of the public or staff that are watching this presentation, the monitor will still be on, but the sound will be off. And when we come out of executive session, we will bring the sound back up. So executive session 67-20 places the Park Commission in closed session to discuss personnel matters, land acquisition, and report of council. We have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in
Commissioner,
favor?
yep, Commissioner Abrantes?
I think he stepped off.
Oh, he stepped off. Commissioner Barron?
Aye.
Commissioner Cashmet?
Yes.
Commissioner Cogger?
Yes.
Commissioner Califer?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy?
Yes.
And Vice President Seabury?
Aye.
Rich, are we back in open session?
We're back in open session.
We're back in open session. I just want to note for the record that a few of the items that were discussed in closed session. The first was the Park Commission's response provided by Park Council regarding the medical marijuana facility that is next to the Torrance County Park. And Ms. Diane Nelson asking for a formal response from the Park Commission. Once President Lasser is back in town, we will have him sign off on that correspondence that Park Council provided regarding that matter. The other is the Park Commission discussed the negative activities that have been occurring at Haddon County Park, predominantly on weekends, but also during the week, where we're having park police have given 20 to 30 summonses a day, each weekend day. We have folks on site putting together fire pits and massive amount of garbage. And we think this site is being promoted on a social media application, Snapchat, as the place to go. And the site is becoming an untenuous site to maintain and make safe. I'll be reaching out. I've already put a call into the mayor of Mine Hill. I'll notify the mayor of Dover and our administrator and the administrator of Randolph Township that we're going to close that park at least for a week at this point in time, and then be able to open it up at some point in time for just trail access if things seem to simmer down at that location as well. Okay, if there's no other matters before the commission, we'll do the resolutions.
Hey, Dave, before we do the resolutions, how do you say Billy Casper's new name?
I've been saying it on Taurus, but I don't know if that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we spoke to this at the last meeting. The organization formerly known as Billy Casper Golf was not able to solidify an agreement with the Billy Casper Trust or family to continue to use their name. So this resolution that you have today is in name change only. Be aware that we still do separate, or Billy Casper bills us differently for Berkshire Valley Golf Course, but it's all part of the same contract. On your bill list, you'll see bills to Billy Casper Golf or Berkshire Valley Golf Course LLC. They just established, remembering that Berkshire Valley was established first under the agreement, the first agreement with Billy Casper, and the other three courses came down the road, that they set up a separate LLC. It's all the same pot of money and budget that you always see. We anticipate that the billing under Berkshire Valley Golf Course will remain the same, and then the billing for Billy Casper Golf will now be this
On Taurus.
Antares. I'll also let you know in advance that at the July meeting, you'll probably have a similar resolution related to Keller and Kirkpatrick. Keller and Kirkpatrick, the consulting firm, has merged with another firm and will be billed under that new firm's name. So you'll see a similar resolution of that. And I do want to make note, Lynn, in conversation with the Friends of the Frelinghuysen Arboretum and the Willowwood Foundation under Resolution 69-20, both organizations have provided funding for seasonal intern staff. Those dollars cover the entire cost of the staff. And then the Friends of the Frelinghuysen Arboretum also provided funding for improvements to the Haggerty Education Center greenhouse. I'd like to thank them for continuing to support those initiatives.
That's very nice.
So resolution number 68-20, be resolved by the Morris County Park Commission on this 14th day of July 2020 that the following resolutions be adopted in the form attached. Resolution number 69-20 through resolution number 71-20. May I have a motion, please?
I'll offer it.
Thank you. And a second?
Okay. I'll second.
Commissioner Abrantes has left the meeting. Commissioner Barron?
Aye.
Commissioner Cash-Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Cogger?
Yes.
Commissioner Califer?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy?
Yes.
And Vice President Seabury?
Aye.
If there being no further business, could I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
And a second?
I will say.
And Commissioner Seabury, that's the end of your meeting.
That's the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Good job.
And there are envelopes on the table, we all get our $10 bills.
Great leadership, Dick.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you. Hey, good.
All right, hang in there.
I remember.
Has left the meeting.